I could play with Kakos all day long.
Come on. Low-hanging fruit.
What's up, guys? I made bread a couple times. I made bagels for the first time this week. I got another typewriter. I got an Apple Watch. Good to see that a lot of you are here, hanging out so early. Yeah, so we've got Schmorgle here today. He's switching from Ableton to Reaper. He probably has a lot of questions, so I suggested we do a live support session, essentially, over Zoom. We're going to connect in about 25 minutes, and hopefully that goes smoothly. You never know when you're streaming and Zooming at the same time. We've never spoken before, so there's going to be a bit of awkwardness. But if you don't know who Schmorgle is, you can find him on YouTube. He's a musician. He's also on Twitch. A couple years ago, probably 2 years ago now, he did a video called Ableton Producer Tries Reaper and Dies. It was a pretty entertaining video. He really struggled with learning Reaper in his first attempt, and it was sort of like a challenge video. I created a reaction video to that, and that did pretty well. People seem to enjoy me and Schmorgle separately, so he's doing the jokey thing, and then I do the serious thing, like here's how you actually do it, or clearing up any misconceptions and things like that. So I will have a link to both of these videos, I suppose. Well, I actually don't want you to click on these links right now, so let me just put them in the video description real quick. The last thing I want you to do is click away from the video, you know? Any questions while we hang out here for the next little bit? Virtual tailgate party. Yeah, that's a good name for the pre-chat. Hey, Mike's here. Will's here. Andy's here. Davi's here. Who else is here? Steven, Jason, HC Nielsen, Jerome, Chris. Sorry if I miss anyone. I'm just kind of scrolling through here with my left hand as quick as possible. I've got KZ in ears. Yeah. I usually use them with the wireless system, little Bluetooth thing. I like them quite a lot. Here's the Bluetooth things. They just clip on. And my previous one, the KZ Pro, just a really basic system, very inexpensive on Amazon. They fit in your ear much better than these ones. These are the AS12 with 6 drivers. They sound pretty good. I would say the other ones sound about just as good. The older version of the wireless was better in some ways. This one, every time you put it on, you have to double or triple tap the left button to get it into like a high power mode. And the sound completely changes. It's like so muffled without doing that. So just kind of have to get into that habit. And they stay connected really well. Reaper is hard to learn. It took me a year at least. It took me several attempts. At like version 2, I was seeing so many compliments of Reaper and saying how powerful it was, how it was the next thing, all that stuff. And I tried it and it just did not make any sense to me at all. I went from heavy FL Studio to heavy Pro Tools use and dabbling with a bunch of others. And Reaper 2 was no good for me. Reaper 3 was iffy. And then Reaper 3.2, Kenny started making videos for Reaper. And then I was able to switch. If it wasn't for you, John, I'd be lost going from PT to Reaper. That's really good to hear. That's why we do this. I don't really care what DAW you use as long as you're happy, because it's such a stressful experience trying to be creative in an environment that is just constantly fighting you. And that's what was happening with Pro Tools for me. Kenny's Groove 3 tutorials got you to switch from FL Studio. Yeah, Reaper is such a big difference from FL Studio. It's been really hard to get back into FL Studio, but there's so many great features in FL Studio. I wish I could just, I don't know, keep both at the same time in my brain, but it's just impossible. I know a lot of you have already done this, but if you didn't know, I do one-on-one tutorials, so anyone can sign up. It's $50 an hour. We do a one-on-one session via Zoom. If you have any questions about Reaper, specific problems, help with your setup, music production, tips and stuff in general, or mixing critiques, I do all of that, and I do a lot of that each month. So I have a link on my website so you can sign up if you're interested in getting extra help or just a head start on learning Reaper. And so our video today is going to be sort of that kind of thing, but we're going to do it with a live audience.
Behold, my stuff.
Okay, so this is a Brother Charger 11 from, I think it's 1976. And this is a much better typewriter than the Commodore. I did manage to fix the Commodore, by the way. So at some point, I will actually record some samples and stuff from it, from this and the other one. Yeah, they are super cool. I really enjoy using these portable typewriters. This one has a 3-position switch for colors. So I don't really understand the white color on here, but it's just sort of like a lighter black. There's black and there's red. Again, this one doesn't have a number 1 key. I think this is a margin skip, shift lock. It works really nicely. So, and again, it's a portable one, so it has a case. It's got all these mechanisms to make it really nice and compact. It's very cool. The way is to fix your mistakes. Not on this one. But that's why these were invented. Whiteout pens. And I've never actually used a whiteout pen for typewriters. Are you interested in a sound library of typewriter mechanics, keys, movement, stuff like that? I've never searched if there are typewriter sample libraries. I'm sure there are, but that's something that I could make. So it would probably be a stereo mic overhead and then a contact mic inside to get some like deep impacts and stuff like that. Yeah, I'm sure there's probably many, but people that buy sample libraries tend to be the kind of that buy every sample library. I'm going to show you something that I made in Reaper this week with some help from ChatGPT. I created a script or two. Pretty helpful. Let me grab some audio files here. Okay, so I was working on this project this week, and there were some places where in the session I saw that there was just a slight offset of the 2 microphones. It was very slight. You could almost only see it in item properties. So that's this number here, the start and source. If I click on these two, you can see that they're slightly different. But then these items were like split all over the place in the session and spread out and all this stuff. So it was not easy to to go ahead and copy this number and then paste it into this number below. And I did try that, but this number here is actually probably not as accurate as what's actually in the session file. So this is truncated to 3 digits. The actual one's probably more accurate than that. But anyways, there wasn't an action that I could find to copy the snap offset or start offset from this item and paste it to this item. If I select 2 items and I find this action, AI start, okay, match start offset values of selected items across tracks. If I run that repositions this first one without changing the start position of this one. And this first version is just for pairs of items. You have to repeat it. That one version, that got me through the session. That got me what I needed to do. And then I finished editing the rest of the thing. The second version will, or it should, I haven't tested this thoroughly, but it should go in columns. So this one, the position gets pasted to this one to this one, this one to this one. The first attempt, it took, I think, this one and applied it to this one, which is kind of weird. So if I run that, that actually didn't work. So yeah, that's something I need to fix. ChatGPT is always an iterative process. The other action that I made is reset, take, start, and source offset. So if I do that, it will reset it to 0, no matter where the item is. That was also an action that I didn't see. Yeah, just a little thing from my work this week that maybe is interesting, maybe that's useful. If you want that script, let me know in the comments. I'll have to keep working on this multi-item one further. There was a question, spectral display on items. Okay, spectral display on items. What is there to say about spectral display on items? If we go to view peaks display settings, we've got various options for how peaks are displayed on items. So peaks looks like that. Spectral peaks looks like this with a frequency to color sort of assignment, and you can shift that by dragging in this window. Left and right kind of changes the ordering. There's a few other options here that I generally don't use, and I like the defaults. It tends to work. And for the main thing that I like to see with the defaults is that things like sibilants really jump out in the waveform. So they're like a bright blue or a teal, and they're easy to find. And because I do so much dialogue editing, that's where I find that most useful. Then there's spectrum view, which looks like this. Again, you can drag this to kind of change the colors to whatever your preference is, and certain things will kind of jump out depending on how you set that. There's curve, there's contrast. Oops, pressed the wrong button. Contrast, and then brightness overall. I do not use this too often. I think it's cool that you can do it. I think that's a very unique thing about Reaper, that you can do these multi-track spectral edits. Most of the time when I try to use this, I can never find that button. Spectral edits, add spectral edit. What I find with this usually is that whatever it is I need to do, like if I'm doing a gain change on this, I'm almost better off using an EQ for that sort of thing. If I want to make a change to a certain frequency, an EQ is going to be better suited for that, personally. The gating, the compression, I never use that stuff. It's cool that you can do this stuff, that you can fade it. I just personally never find it useful. But I will mention a few other things here. So if you are grabbing it, there's a little gray handle here. You can move it around from there. You can resize it there. There's a mouse modifier if you hold down the command key or control on Windows, and you can actually draw that shape a little bit better. But I find it really, really tricky to get that shape, because that's obviously not a useful shape there, what I just did. So, okay, and then, okay. If you want this like round, it's going to be very tricky to do that. Okay, got it. There we go. That's a little bit better. And then you can still kind of resize it here. I don't know what's going on with this fish shape at the back. That's a little weird. Anyways, these are things you can do. They may or may not be useful. You don't have to use them if they sound bad. I would rather go to Isotope RX, which has spectral selection, automatic selection, frequency, harmonic selection, all these things that are much more powerful than this here. But it can be a useful thing to like just to see another view of your audio. Okay, let's make a new spectral edit. I do have keyboard, or not keyboard shortcuts, but toolbar icons here for a lot of them. So peaks display settings, no, that's peaks display settings. This is, oh, that's normal peaks. That's spectral peaks. That's spectrogram peaks. And then this button is a add new spectral edit. So something you could do if you don't want to like completely, hang on. You don't want to completely mute an item. Do that. And then you can just like turn that region gain down. And there's sort of like a volume adjustment there. But you could maybe isolate that to just everything below, I don't know, 1,000 hertz. Or turn down everything except for, let's say, 830, and then you can fade that in. So, I don't know. Like I said, things that you can do may or may not be useful, but it is a unique feature of Reaper, spectral edits and stuff. Hopefully that answers your question. Maybe if you have some situations where you think it might be useful, but you haven't had luck with it, maybe I can help you with that if you want to go more specific. Sounds good for sound design tweaks. Yeah, if there's some specific things you want to cut out, you can definitely do that. But just consider like just basic item editing and things like fades, EQ, gating compression on the item as an effect might be more useful than the spectral edits and easier to manage. Hello.
Yo, yo, yo. Look how crisp and beautiful your video is. Holy shit, man.
You get the 4K camera.
The background's killer too. I remember you were setting up your space last time I checked in on your videos. It looks awesome.
Diffusion panels, there's acoustic treatment all around the room, and LED lights lighting those up so I can change colors if I want.
Ugh, the dream.
Yeah, it's pretty great. Everything's on like smart switches so I can phone control everything. When I go live on Fridays at 8:30, all my lights and cameras turn on for me. So it's like one less thing that I
So dope.
that I don't need to think about. And it like helps get me in the mood to start the stream.
Oh, for sure.
2 years ago, you made a video about switching to, not switching to Reaper, but you challenged yourself to learn Reaper in an afternoon, it seemed like.
Yeah, nice way to put it.
It ended up being your second most popular video on your channel.
And let's be real, probably a lot due to you, which I appreciate. The extra like $20 that gave me an ad revenue. Anything you introduced like a whole bunch of other people to my channel. I'm very grateful to be clear.
So as we get started here, is there anything you want to plug? I know that you started streaming on Twitch, and I saw something called Creativity Gym.
Creativity Gym, yeah. That's kind of the main steez these days. I'd be remiss if I didn't say I have some music coming out soon. But like a good indie artist, I don't have a date. So, if you get curious and want to check out my music and you vibe with it, then I just say follow my socials, and there's a new fun track coming out soon. But the thing I would plug the most is like maybe hop in the Discord, and if you're someone who likes having some stimulus or impetus to be creative, every Saturday I run a little stream called Creativity Gym where I make a prompt. It's usually really silly, very limiting. And then the Discord members, who are primarily a lot of like young, just sort of getting into production and songwriting, they take the prompt and run with it. And then we all share what we came up with that Saturday. So
nice.
It's a fun time.
I was looking at your most recent stream VOD, and it seemed like Creativity Gym was also gym related because everyone was talking about squats.
Oh yeah, so I did a fundraiser recently, and one of the days was I was trying to learn Reaper, and I actually maybe I shouldn't tell you this. I had your videos up on stream, and I was learning Reaper.
That's totally fine.
Okay, thank God. I was learning Reaper while getting donations, and every time I got a donation, I had to start squatting for the amount of money equivalent to squats. I think it was like maybe 10 squats per dollar or something like that.
Okay.
So people ran with it. I made the most money that day, I'll tell you. And barely learned any Reaper. Barely got in there.
Spent all your time squatting.
Most of it, yeah. One thing I'd be remiss if I didn't mention, since you brought it up earlier, one of my recent ventures, I pretty much have gone like deep into game audio design now. That's a big reason why I'm getting into Reapers, because that's kind of an industry standard, and it's just so flexible for that kind of work. Yep. I'm part of this really awesome Discord group full of game audio people. who all, at least a few of them, really like your channel. And when I joined the Discord, like one or two of them was like, "Yeah, you seem familiar. Like I might have seen your video somewhere." And I was like, "It was probably me floundering in a Reaper blog video." And they're like, "That's it." That's the one. So my reputation is already just tanked. But maybe we could build it up today.
The chat wants to know if you're fully switching to Reaper or are you going to be using it alongside Ableton?
It's probably going to be a bit of both. To be honest with you, my guess is that once I really crack the code with Reaper, I'll probably fall in love with it, is my guess. And a lot of people I trust have said the same. Ableton still has this like feel that it's hard for me to describe necessarily, because I think sometimes it's objectively worse at doing certain things than Reaper. But there's just like a workflow thing that just feels so natural to me. And coming from other programs like Logic and, well, mainly really just Logic, it was like the doors really opened up for me when I found Ableton. Just like for whatever reason, the synapse is fired in terms of creativity. Yeah. My guess is that once I really see what is capable in this program, I'll probably be sticking with it for most of my audio journey, especially as a game audio person, which I really hope to do. Yeah. It just seems like it makes a lot of sense.
How much do you use Session View in Ableton?
I'd say most of the time.
Okay. So there isn't anything like that in Reaper.
That's okay.
Okay.
That's fine.
That's the main thing. There is a third-party extension called Playtime, which you may have seen. And that is your clip launcher sort of thing. It even works with video, which is kind of neat. But it's a new workflow that even I'm not too good with. Yeah. So, yeah, I like the sort of clip launching thing, the Session View in Ableton, but it's never been like a must-have for me personally. I kind of work in chunks using regions and items. Blocks of items I'll use. Razor edits to move things around.
I'm already sort of outing myself. I actually completely misunderstood you. I was referring to the arrangement view. I'm always in the arrangement view.
So yeah, that's an easy to switch over to really to any DAW.
Yeah.
How about stock plugins or certain features of Ableton that can't live without?
Can't live without. I think the thing I'm probably going to miss the most, and it's on my list of questions for you, is I just really like its sampler. I just think that it's a pretty easy to use, robust sampler. Some of the Max Live stuff is really cool, but I don't think that's anything I can't accomplish with other plugins, maybe even stuff in Reaper. But I know, like, I have some Waves plugins and the Soundtoy stuff that kind of do a lot of the stuff that I do in built-in Ableton stuff like better. So mainly the sampler, I think I'm probably going to miss the most.
Okay. There's a lot of like really kind of high-level technical stuff that I've seen a few Ableton users build. Like Mr. Bill, he's got a whole course and stuff.
Yeah. Or Chuck Stutton, you ever seen him?
No, I actually haven't.
Yeah, he built like the whole OP1 in Ableton.
Oh, nice.
Which was really cool.
There's certain things like being able to trigger different effects chains from MIDI, and you have audio coming in and then a MIDI trigger that switches or something like that. I think it's called Hocket, that technique.
Yes, correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So like every other note, it's a whole new signal path. There's probably some workflow that I haven't figured out, but I don't know how to do that in Ableton or in Reaper. But I've tried in Reaper and it is not something you use. Okay.
That's too big brain for me. I have seen that stuff and it is dope as hell, but I am not doing it on a daily basis by any means.
Well, let's start with any of your questions you might have.
I mean, I can sort of list off some things I was curious about and you can pick one up, or we can go from where I left off with your videos.
Sure. I'll point out one thing here. I can draw on your screen.
Yeah.
So
man, just from a blank session, you already have notes.
Yeah. Right here, there's this huge gap. And I know this is a Reaper default thing, but if you hover your mouse over there, somewhere there's a little divider. Down a bit lower.
Aha.
Should be it.
Hello.
Drag that up.
Oh my God. Thank you. That was driving me nuts. I was like, I gotta fill this with more buttons, dude. I don't know what else to do.
It's a stupid Reaper default. I don't like it. I think you've customized your main toolbar.
A little
Looks
bit. Yeah. I
like,
took
yeah.
away some of the stuff that I didn't need. I didn't get deep into some of the custom buttons you made, but I'm definitely interested in it.
Okay. Yeah, it's a thing that like, oh, I definitely need a button one day, and you'll decide, and then you may never use that button the next day or ever again. And I am like that. I've got a lot of toolbar buttons that I don't know what they're called. I don't know what they do, and I don't know why I made them. But it was important at the time. It all depends on the type of work that you're doing and, how repetitive or how optimized you want it to be. Extensions. You have the extensions installed?
Yes, I should have at least some of the stuff you talk about in some of your early videos of starting from a fresh session. I have a couple of suggested scripts going as well. Gosh, I'm trying to remember all the little details. I sort of just flew through your first videos, but is there a way to check about these extensions?
Okay. Extensions menu.
Yep. And then,
Okay, so you've got SWS and ReaEQ.
Yes.
Okay, that looks fine then. I would say those are the essentials. If you're doing video work, you might do that with game audio. VLC media player, 64-bit is something to add in.
You could just throw that into Reaper?
If it's installed, Reaper can find it and use it as its video playback engine.
Oh,
and it gives you more format kind of decoding. Doesn't affect rendering video, but playback should be better.
One thing I remember messing around with it, it's not here as a default. I wish I could remember the name of it, but it's there's this like global recording track. It's like always recording in the background, and I could pull audio from my session at any time and drag it into the timeline.
Global sampler.
Global sampler, that's it.
Okay, have you got that going?
I have it installed. I don't see it up here. I guess I probably have to activate it when I start a new session.
That's a good point. So I did do this on stream once. It is a multi-step kind of thing. So Global Sampler is made by Bird. I'm just saying this to you and to everyone. It's a Reaper script. You can get it in ReaEQ. There's two parts of it. One is a script, so you would launch that from the action list. And the second part is a JS effect. And that goes on whichever track or monitoring effects chain that you want to sample from. So in your action list, you've got the global sampler. If you run that will start the script, which is sort of your UI.
Yeah.
So if you want to move that to another location, there's the gray tab, kind of like a browser tab. So you can drag that around to wherever you want. That's a pretty good spot for it. Takes up a lot of room, but if you're using it a lot, it might be worth it.
I think in like sound design sessions where I'm like, I don't know, like building a ton of different laser sounds and I'm just running through synths and plugins, it might be nice to just kind of have rolling in the background.
Exactly. I find it very helpful in the live streams. I'm almost never recording, but that's always recording for me. So,
Smart, yeah.
So we've got the script there. Let's check where that is getting the audio from. It should be in your monitoring effects chain, which is going to be in your top right corner. Be behind my camera, but yeah, so you got global sampler and it just needs to unbypass the monitoring effects chain.
Unbypass the monitoring effects chain.
Okay, so you see how the button is red? Top right corner.
Yes.
Yeah. So there's your. Okay. Yeah, that's going to be hidden from the stream, but monitoring effects chain, like your tracks, there's these buttons here for effects, and the button on the right is your bypass for the whole chain.
Okay, cool.
So now that's going. You've used it before, but just if anyone doesn't know, any audio that comes through Reaper out your master track, it's going to hit the monitoring effects chain next. And if this plugin, the global sampler plugin, is there, you're going to see that in the waveform. You can grab that and drag it into your project. It makes a new file for that. It's just a 60-second loop constantly going. I recently learned that I think it's a middle drag, and you can scroll back in time.
Oh, cool! Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes I'm like, I gotta wait until it gets to the end of the buffer, but it doesn't. It's continuous. You just scroll over to get a better selection.
When I was first messing with this, I was thinking that like, how if I miss it, like I'm screwed. But
you don't have to wait until it gets to the end. Like it doesn't start a new buffer when it gets to the far right. You can drag over and then grab what you need.
Is there like a folder that all this stuff is sitting in?
Good question. Okay, so let's open up Reaper's preferences. So that's a Control P.
Oh, yes. I love shortcuts.
Okay, so if we go up to scroll up, it's going to be under Project. It's actually not in Project. It's under Paths.
Paths.
So we've got the Reaper preferences here. The default recording path when it's unsaved and no recording path is configured. You can select a folder for this. If it's blank, it's going to be in My Documents / Reaper Media.
Okay, cool.
And we can verify that by right-clicking on the last thing you recorded.
Like over here?
Yep. And go to Source Properties.
Source Properties. Ooh. Oh, cool.
Yeah, so the location is up there at the top, the file name. Yep.
Ah, it's in C. Okay, cool.
Documents / Reaper Media.
Yep.
And this window also shows all of the metadata, format.
Yeah,
all that
super
stuff.
Useful.
Yeah, Reaper is pretty good about putting in some basic metadata automatically.
Awesome.
Where in time it was recorded, because sometimes things get shifted at a time and you can snap them back to their original recording location.
Oh, that's
pretty cool.
super cool. Damn. Okay.
I think that answers the question. Where do things go if you haven't set? If you don't want that Reaper Media folder to be used, if it's like you have a dedicated audio drive, you can set that there. I usually keep it blank. I don't mind the Reaper Media folder. It's easy to find. It's already set up by Reaper by default, so I just leave it. I see that you've set up the Reaper Media projects thing. Is that correct? There?
Reaper Media Projects thing? Oh, yes.
Does your project name, your drive have the letter E?
Yes, I switched
Okay.
to a different drive because my C drive is pretty limited on memory, so I just wanted to bank it all in a beefier drive.
So in the preferences, there's the default project folder. You have it set to your E drive, which is great.
Yeah.
So when you hit save, it's going to show you that E drive. If that's blank, which is the default, what you see is the last place you saved a project, which is inside of another project folder. And so I see people go 30 projects deep, saving a project inside of a project, inside of a project, inside of a project.
No.
And it's so hard to clean that up later.
Yeah, I can imagine. That's hell to me.
So you've done it right. You followed my video, so you did it right. Right now, I see one thing that bothers me, but might not bother you at all. It said offline on your media items. Does that ever scare you? Alt-tab to another app.
Okay. God, you see all my apps.
Yeah, so you see in Reaper, it says offline item.
Oh, yes, I do see this.
There's a reason for that. Again, it's one of the defaults. It's something that I don't like. Basically, it unlocks those items, audio files, so that other apps can use them, make changes, destructive changes, and then come back to Reaper. So you could send something to Isotope RX and change it, and then come back to Reaper, and it should be updated.
Okay.
I don't find that it actually is updated half the time, but it's something that can reduce the number of steps you needed to destructively edit something and bring it back into Reaper.
Okay.
It's on by default. I don't like it. I think that the file accidentally got deleted when I see offline. Like it looks like a missing file.
I have noticed that, and then it came back, and I went, "Dope, okay, it's fine." So,
Yeah.
I guess I was ignorant. It's bliss.
Yeah. So I believe that's just type in offline in the find box at the bottom.
I didn't even know there was a find right there. Jeez.
Not that one.
FX. Nope. Can I keep finding?
Yep.
Yeah.
Set media items offline when application is not active. So turn that off.
Goodbye.
Yeah. So
Sorry if that was in one of your videos and I ignored it, but
it may have been. I don't know.
let's try. Alt tab. Let's go back to x.com. Yes, we're good. Oh, love it. Safety. This is already invaluable, by the way. I could quit right now and be happy.
So you've been trying to use Reaper for your creativity gym things?
I haven't actually been using Reaper really at all.
Okay.
I'm working on my first sound design. I'm building a reel. I had started it in Ableton. And instead of transferring everything over to Reaper, I was like, okay, I'm going to finish my first design in Ableton. Then the next one, I'm going to challenge myself to do all in Reaper. Yesterday, I'm pretty sure I put a button on it. So the next design I do is going to be all in Reaper. So I've barely scratched the surface. I've mainly just been trying to set it up and get it functional in a place that like I feel like I could start being creative.
Okay. What are the steps in Ableton that you would take to build up your reel? Like, how would you start that project?
Usually I'll drop in the video first, which Ableton is actually infuriating in that regard. You have to convert the file. I forget what the process is. I have it automated now, but there was like a really obtuse thing where like the frames were all messed up, which is really important to be right when I'm sound designing. So I had to convert the file, plunk it back into Ableton. If I switch the monitor I'm using, it changes the like refresh rate of the video, and then it can crash the session. So what I'll do is make sure all of that's okay.
Okay.
Set it up on a designated window in Ableton. From there, I'll usually just start plopping in samples and just get like a feel for like a particular like spectrum. Like maybe if I'm working on all the footsteps first, something just like sort of arbitrary, I'll make a couple of tracks, couple of channels and groups of all footstep stuff, plonk it in and start lining it up and kind of beginning to design from there.
Cool. Okay. So what's the first thing that jumped out to me is the video setup. So I'll have you go over to project settings. So in your main toolbar, the first button there, the letter I with the circle, that's your project settings. There's a video tab there.
Nice.
Okay. So that's where you set your frame rate and preferred video size, I think is important to set.
Yeah. Sure.
1920 by 1080.
Yep.
2560 by 1440 or whatever the 4K number is. I never can remember the 4K number because it doesn't start with a 4.
It doesn't. It's so weird. Do you usually keep at 30 frames? I mean, I imagine more frames, more CPU.
It actually depends on the video file that you have.
Okay.
I usually do straight 30. From a camera, it's most likely to be 29.97.
Yeah.
Not straight 30, but if it's from OBS, it's probably 30. If it's game capture, it might be 60. I think there might be a CPU difference playing back a 30 and a 60 session, a 30 file and a 60 session, or 60 and a 30. It doesn't automatically like change the speed or anything like that. It will always play back normally, but you can put in a 60 FPS file into a 30 session, play it at half speed.
It'll play,
and it will still look smooth just because there's that many frames. There's enough frames to fill every visual frame. And these other options here, videos affected by solo, all these things, this is good. I like those settings. Items in lower number tracks replace higher. Yeah, that's really for layering videos, and that's the way that I like it. So like, if you have a video on track 2 and track 1 is the one that's going to be visible, similar to layers in Photoshop or something like that. Probably not going to come up too much unless you're adding titles, adding your name or logo or anything like that to a video. If you're making a reel, I think that would happen.
Yeah, or if I'm trying to like replace, like if I make an edit to the video because I want it shorter and I want to put it back in to line everything up, I might need to like put 2 videos in to line them up, make sure all the audio is synced the best I can, and then remove the other video. So I can see that coming up.
Okay. You can save those settings. Okay, so the next thing with video work is you want to work usually in a frame grid rather than a bars and beats grid.
Yes. That I was following your tutorial with like the grid stuff, which I really liked a lot, and then I realized, not the most conducive for exactly what I'm doing.
For sound design and for all my videos, I always work in the frame grid, and every edit is snapped to grid, and no one's ever complained. So like,
there you go.
So if you right click on the grid lines button in your main toolbar,
Grid lines button. Is it this guy?
No, that's ripples.
Of course, it's ripples. There you go.
So show grid line spacing. You've got that 1/4 set there. You can find frames, and that the drop down menu. Click on frame.
Oh, look at that.
And then grid lines on 30 FPS. And
very cool. Okay.
And then the other thing you might want to do is change your ruler to show hours, minutes, seconds, frames instead of bars and beats. So close this
It's not in here. Okay.
It's not in there. And to change that, you right click on anywhere in the ruler section. And then your options are down here. Hours, minutes, seconds, frames is what you use for video.
Dude.
By the end of this, let's get a template kind of set up for starting your next reel. So it's going to save you a bunch of these steps. So we've already set up the frame rate in the project settings. We've set up the ruler and we set up the grid. So that's good. For my stuff, I actually have a toolbar button that will do those things for me. So I just click that and I can click it a second time and it goes back to kind of the defaults, which is pretty cool.
So you wrote these scripts that just sort of do all these settings in one fell swoop.
Yeah, it's just a custom action that does, I guess it's probably a cycle action, not a custom action. Essentially, yes. I forget exactly how I did it, but yes, that's what it does. Let's delete this first track. We don't need that.
How do I delete the track? Aha. The delete button does that, guys. Just pro tip from Schmorgle, the delete button deletes a track.
It's all good. No, I mean, you'd be surprised how many times that comes up. But the last thing you touch, the delete key should delete that. If you're selecting a track and there's audio on the track or effects or it's unclean in some way, it will prompt you, are you sure? But if it's a completely blank track, it won't prompt. Let's start with one track for video at the top. So you can make a new track by just double clicking.
Oh, great. I didn't know that. Cool.
We'll do another for sound design. I'm guessing it's like you're going to do either gameplay or a cutscene, right?
Yeah, right now I'm building some cinematic redesigns.
Okay. So you might have track 2 is music. Track 3 and on will be folders of different categories of sound.
Correct.
So Foley and Foley could have a folder for footsteps, cloth. What are the other ones? Touching things. It's not touch, interactions. I think is the
no, I think the industry standard is touching things. Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Pokes go. Pokes and prods.
That probably
pokes and prods are probably. And what else?
I have searched in my sound library poke before, so it definitely comes up.
Yeah, I've got like a Looney Tunes sound effect in my mind for a poke.
Oh, dude, I have a whole cartoon folder. I think that's like an Adobe sound pack is cartoon.
I love cartoon sound effects.
Oh, they're so good.
Or almost all of them are like analog sounds, like real recorded sounds on tape. Seriously? And it's like, to me, they're mysterious. I have no idea how they got these sounds a lot of times.
And I think half of them involve that like pitch whistle. I forget what the actual
slide whistle.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Lots of that. Lots of like corks squeaking on glass and things like that.
That's exactly.
With just like tons of compression. And also these sounds being used so many times in video that it becomes like the sound of that thing, whether it's realistic or not.
Or like the Wilhelm scream, like that scream objectively kind of sucks, but it's used in everything.
Yeah, I actually really like it.
Take. I don't know if people love the scream or not. I think it's kind of a bad scream.
It's so unique, and it can be used in the wrong way, but it is in every Star Wars thing ever.
Exactly. It's mimetic at this point. Like it's kind of has to be in there.
It's even beyond that. It was a meme by the 80s, I think, before we had a word for it. So let's just make a couple more tracks and then label the tracks. So if you want to make a bunch of tracks at the same time, you can right click there and then there's insert multiple.
Aha, I could say 100. No.
Probably like 9 more would probably be enough.
Sweet. Oh, you think?
So let's go, like, if these are just folders, different categories of sound.
Yes, more than enough for folders.
Okay, so you know about track labeling? How to name them?
Sure. You press Control R. Nope, I don't.
No. Okay, so there's a little black box there. Let's start with track 1.
Okay. Aha.
Double click. Yeah. So video is track 1. Yep. Press tab to go to the next one.
Oh, great. Within the aha.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's probably going to be music, and you'll just drop in like some stock music library thing, maybe. So 3 might be your Foley folder. Impacts, maybe.
Love it. And I can, obviously shape these to what makes sense, but for now.
Ambience or environmental or anything like that.
Yeah, I like ambience.
What else could be in a cinematic thing? Even within Foley, you should probably have footsteps separate from interactions.
Yeah, usually there's like, I mean, also I'm still pretty green here. So, but the way I've been building it is like all the character, like stuff that involves with the character's body is all within a folder. And then there's subfolders within that, like footsteps, cloth, if there's leather, like arm movements, throwing, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and you separate those on separate tracks. And you can even have, like these folders here, like your Foley folder might have footsteps, interactions, and cloth in there. That's 3 separate tracks. You duplicate that track for each character.
Correct. Yeah.
So we're sort of just building up the template here. It doesn't have to, that Foley folder might contain every character, or it might be, there might be 15, 20 tracks within there.
And it might be case by case, but I haven't decided what makes the most sense yet, whether it's like all characters Foley live together, or each character has its own like parent folder with each character has like Foley impacts ambience, and the other character Foley impacts ambience. I don't know what's the sort of more streamlined method there, but I'm figuring that out.
Yeah, I think that's a personal preference of how you want, like especially if it's Foley and you're performing it, how you want to do that, because you're probably going to focus on just one character at a time, and you might only do like 1 or 2 types of sound at a time. Like any videos I've seen, I don't see anyone doing like, I don't know, horse hooves plus the leather of the saddle and and the dust and all these things all at the same time. It's multiple passes on different tracks.
Correct. At least that's how I've been working. So yeah.
Let's go over to track 6, footsteps or feet or however you want to call it.
Feet might look bad. I'm gonna say footsteps.
Okay. Am I missing something for Foley? It's usually those 3 elements, but I've got this suspicion that there's a 4th element of Foley that I'm forgetting.
I mean, there could be, depending on the redesign. Often for these redesigns, you don't include any sort of voiceover, but there's been some edge cases where like someone gets hit by something and I feel like it sounds really weird without some sort of vocalization. So I would maybe include like a vocalization. Yeah,
I was thinking that as well. So do you know how to make folders in Reaper?
Nope.
Okay. You do understand the concept of folders, though. I think Ableton has folders. Okay. Yeah. Not every DAW has folders. If you take track 6, hold down your left mouse and drag it up to your track 3 position, you see that blue line?
Yeah.
So you want that below, and you want that line to be slightly indented.
Oh, okay.
Does that make sense?
Shimmy that?
So you can also click on the folder button once it's in the right place.
I want the cool.
Do the drag way. So drag up.
Is there like a shift in that line that will happen?
There. Yeah, and then once it's in a folder, it's indented. So once you have the folder created, it's generally easier to drag things into it. So let's find your interaction track and drag that up. Yep. And then your cloth and drag that up. And just as you're doing that, the only thing you want to watch out for is that it's not becoming a new folder. Yeah, another folder. So a bit of terminology here. A folder track, it's just a track, right? It can have media on it. It can have effects. In terms of audio routing, these 3 tracks pass through in serial to the folder track. So that makes sense. The tracks within a folder are called child tracks, and the folder becomes a parent track. The parent tracks go to the master track. You understand master track. So rather than these 3 tracks, so your footsteps, interaction, cloth, going to the master directly, they're now submixed into the Foley track, where you can add effects globally, such as compression or EQ. You can adjust the overall volume for all of your Foley or just for that character with the volume control. And then that signal passes through to the master.
Oh, this is volume here, right? Okay, cool.
Yeah, that's volume.
I remember
pans
being
below.
confused because they didn't. In your video, you do show how to like pop all these out. I don't believe the panning was there to begin with, right? Or am I crazy?
It depends on your theme setting. By default, if your mixer, I think it just popped up as you shrunk your mixer.
Oh, okay.
So if the mixer's showing pan, then your TCP. Track control panel, this whole area on the left.
TCP.
That's
You know
TCP.
me.
So yeah, we don't have any tracks to go inside of the other folders, but potentially these are. Each of these impacts, vocalization, all these things, they will be folders. And as you add more tracks, as you need more tracks, you can put things in there. Or you can put them in now. You can just put in impact A through D or A through F inside of the impact folder. And it's just somewhere to dump your sound files.
Can I like, similarly to adding a ton of tracks at the same time, can I add a ton of tracks into a folder at the same time?
Yeah. So if you select your impact track, and then you need to actually scroll down to an empty area for this to work. So right click down there. We found this a couple weeks ago. Like if you right click on a track, you don't have the insert multiple option.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah, it's a different set of menus.
It's a different menu. So insert multiple tracks, but there is an option in there. See after last touched, you last touched track 12.
I see.
If you have a track and then right click, insert multiple.
Let's just say 2. Aha, cool.
It will go there. Yeah.
Great.
We were dragging and dropping the tracks to make folders. You can do that with multiple tracks.
Sure.
There's also a preference so that dragging tracks won't create folders unless you hold down Shift, I think it is.
Ooh, I kind of like
So
that.
that's what's going to preferences.
Okay.
Control P.
Thank you.
If you search for folder, that one. When reordering tracks via drag and drop, hold Shift to control folder creation.
I feel like that just might even make it easier to activate the folder option, yeah? 'Cause it's kind of forcing it.
Yeah. Dragging won't create folders unless you're holding Shift.
Aha. I kind of like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
That's a pretty new option that came out in the past,
Sweet.
I think since the summer started. So yeah, you can put those tracks in folders. There's also like shortcuts you can set up so that if you have, let's say you selected those last 3 tracks, you've run this keyboard shortcut that will make a new track above it and prompt for a name, and it becomes a folder with the selected
cool.
tracks. So I use things like that quite a lot.
Yeah. Any other things you wanted to hit me with in terms of our preset here? Like, can I save this as a preset really fast?
With Reaper, there's a few different sort of preset things. There's track templates, which is the track, the color of it, any of the media items optionally.
I gotta get some fun colors going at some point, but it doesn't have to be.
So in that right-click menu for a track, there's insert track from template as one of your options there. So that's if you have a project, either a blank project or an existing project, and you want to recall a set of tracks or a single track with effects and names and colors and things like that, you can do that.
Yeah.
And then there's project templates or just save your project.
Cool.
Because you can always just take a regular project and duplicate it in Explorer or Finder, and that's a template. You could lock it so it can't be overwritten, or you can use Reaper's template function if you want it in the template menu. That's a slightly different thing. Let's just grab the tracks 10, 11, 12. Let's get them into one of those other folders.
Cool.
So let's say into your
one folder.
Into your impacts folder.
Love it. And I'm gonna hit Shift with this new ability, and it's so seamless.
Yep. And just do impact ABC.
Cool.
Let's go back to that insert multiple tracks thing, because there is something here that can speed things up. So select the ambience track, and then down at the bottom, the empty area, right click, insert multiple.
Oh, down. I see. Yeah, last
Yeah.
touch.
It is in one of the, I think it's in the track menu. So you can name it in there, and that will give you, I think, numbered tracks.
Okay.
So just call this ambience,
And then
and let's do 4.
Yeah.
Because if there's water, if there's other things, and then they're all selected, so you can shift drag that up.
Go bonk.
Yep.
Oh, love it.
Yeah. Go up to the file menu, and I'll show you the template section.
Cool.
So file, project templates, and then save project as template. This function automatically finds the Reaper project templates folder, which is going to be saved where Reaper is.
Mm-hmm.
And once you hit save here and go to file menu again, you'll have this project in your project templates list.
Okay. So I go to project templates.
Yep. Yep. And if you hit that, that will, sure, you can save it. Yeah, it's going to just open up that as an unsaved project, but it looks exactly the same. All the settings that you did are there.
Yeah.
And then the first time you hit save, it's going to prompt you, what's the name? Where do you want to put it?
Rad. Oh, this is awesome. Already just weight in gold. Thank you.
One thing you mentioned was colors. There's a million ways to do colors. I mostly use the SWS auto color function. If I don't have a preference for a color and I don't want to template it, then I just hit a button that will set a random color. I like that. So if you go to the action list and search for random color, so we're looking for one of the SWS, set selected track to...
One random color? Oh, custom color.
The second last one. Okay, so slight difference. If you have multiple tracks selected, you can set them all to a single random color or each one random. So whichever one. For random, I use the letter B for random color.
Sure.
If you want to assign that, you click on the add button and then you press the key.
Yep. Now,
So-
don't I have to hit this to make that work? 'Cause sometimes.
Only if it's a special key.
Oh, okay.
Spacebar, tab, enter is for the special
I
keys.
see. Gotcha.
Okay, so you can select all those tracks, hit B, and then that will color those tracks.
Great. And B. Well,
That did one random color, so
they're all blue.
you could select individually.
Yeah, that's fine. Just when I pull them up, Oh, look at the beautiful color spectrum. Yes.
Yeah. There's so many different ways to color. I just picked one kind of at random, one that I tend to use frequently. I must use the other one because it does different colors.
Can you
Go ahead.
limit colors? Like, can you say, like, I just want it in this particular spectrum?
Yes, and there's probably
You don't have to
4
go
different
over it.
ways.
I'm just
The SWS custom colors allows you to choose which colors will be used, and otherwise it's sort of random.
Yeah.
As long as there's some color, it helps you identify different things.
Very much appreciate that. Yeah. The all gray all day was not doing a ton for me. So this is very helpful.
Yeah, some people don't care about colors at all. I see lots of people with 300 tracks and no colors, and that works for them, and that's fine. But
I do not have the
can't.
focus. Yeah, there's no shot. Do you have any particular scripts or recommendations of like people who make dope scripts that I should just make a list of?
I would just download everything that's in ReaEQ, pretty much.
Okay.
There are so many. There's like 10,000 scripts.
Jesus, okay.
All the stuff that's in the ReTeam repository is kind of like the default for ReaEQ.
Cool.
I just install all that. It's all basic stuff from Xrame and a few others. Very basic stuff generally, but good stuff.
Cool.
MPL makes a lot of good stuff. Bird.
Love Bird.
There's so many. And there's some niche ones.
Your chat can flood my socials with as much recommendations as they want. I will take everything. So if you're inclined.
Toucan plugins. Let's Talk About Reaper is saying Sock Monkey. There's a lot of stuff. I kind of forget, like all the stuff that I use, I kind of forget who made it a lot of times.
It gets lost in the weeds.
Reaper stock plugins look okay. Not tiny.
I think so. I haven't actually checked in a minute.
Just go to another track.
Okay. That's.
Kakos folder.
Thank you.
I was thinking the other day, like, everyone calls it Ableton, not live.
That's
what
true.
if it's like, I love Kakos. Kakos is the best.
I
Kakos
call
is
it
so
Kakos
powerful.
in my video. It is powerful, dude. That's so strong.
I could play with Kakos all day long.
Come on. Low hanging fruit.
Yeah.
Really.
You're using the brand name instead of the product name. It's just weird. But no one calls it live. No one really calls it
Ableton
live.
exclusive thing. Actually,
I think it is.
dude. In my comparison video, which is also like needs to be updated because it's full of a little bit of misinformation. My Logic Ableton comparison video, people get so. It's the highest comment or the most consistent comment I get is like, it's called Live, idiot, not Ableton. And it's like,
They only have one product. It's fine.
yeah, like it was kind of a joke too, like because no one
Yeah.
calls it Live, but I think it went over people's head. Anyway, yeah, this is actually kind of part of one of my questions. What are some of your go-to caucus plugins?
The ones that I like are Recomp, ReaEQ, Reinsert, Relimit, and Repitch.
I can sort of intuit what all these are except for insert.
That's for hardware effects.
Oh, cool.
That's your routing in and out of your audio interface for hardware. You can also do MIDI sends with that
Oh,
to
sick.
hardware, and it does the latency
okay.
adjustment. The EQ is very good. I know you have the you've got the Fab filter, so you may never use ReaEQ.
I mean, honestly, I use it sometimes just to even save, like, even if it's, maybe I'm not saving anything, but it's like a fraction of CPU power, I'll use the stock stuff. So,
Okay.
Or if I need just like a quick low cut or something like really simple, I'll usually use the Ableton stock. So,
Yeah, the Reaper stock EQ, ReaEQ,
Yep.
is it's pretty decent. It looks better if you turn off the show tabs button there. Show tab, that one, and then resize this to like how big you would have it in Fab Filter. It looks a lot better on Mac with dark mode, but it is what it is.
I imagine. Windows can look a little like Windows 9080, like we're stuck in 98.
Yeah, that's like the biggest complaint with Reaper is that the UI hasn't changed in a really long time, especially on Windows. There's lots of like kind of hidden shortcuts with this, like this area, and you double click there.
Oh,
that will put in a thing. If you're over here, obviously that's going to put in your low pass filter.
Can I make it like a steeper shelf here?
Not really. You double them up. So it's a 6 dB per octave, double it up and make it 12.
I see. Yep.
That mostly works. If somewhere down in the middle, that should make a notch filter.
Oh, cool.
Yep. And then anywhere else, kind of in this range, it's going to do a new band filter.
Gotcha. I can do that up here, I imagine. That's not a notch. Or is
There isn't like a steep peak
okay, gotcha.
default, but mouse wheel over that.
Sweet.
Alt click to delete a point, shift click to bypass, double click to bypass. I thought it was shift click for some reason. Yeah, infinite number of bands. There's presets. You can set up your own thing. There's some scripts that interact with this a little bit, so you can build harmonic series.
Oh, nice.
Notches and things like that, comb filters, which are pretty cool. The most recent addition to Reaper for stock plugins is Relimit, and it's like a brick wall limiter. It's pretty clean.
Oh, cool.
But I know you have some Wave stuff and Fab Filter stuff, so you might not ever use it.
I mean, honestly, if it's really functional, I might use it quite a bit. I was curious if it did the Fab Filter thing where you see...
You are on the wrong track.
That would do it. You know what? Another pro tip from Schmorgle, make sure you're on the right track. And we're muted for some reason. Huh.
You just bypass the effects. You're muted for some reason.
Yeah. Why am I muted?
One of the other effects, maybe? Oh, you got reinsert. Reinsert will...
That'll do it. Oops.
Okay, so shortcut for removing, alt-click.
Oh, great. Fuck, that was the thing I wanted to keep. Well, I saw it for a second. It has a visualizer. That's what I was curious about.
Yeah.
Let me hit maybe one or two more questions before I set you free from this prison. Wave shaping and LFOs. Do you have any recommendations for that in Reaper?
Wave shaping. There is a distortion plugin called Waveshaping Distortion. Just go to any effects chain and then search the JS folder.
Okay.
And search for wave shaping.
Oops.
Graphical wave shaper.
Ooh.
I think you can draw in there.
Oh, let's go. Hell yeah.
So that's really good for making harsh noise.
Yeah, sure.
Like wave shapers are pretty tricky. And I think you can resize this. You can't zoom in on that, but you should be able to resize this window as big as you want to get a little bit better resolution on that.
Cool.
Yeah, it's what low frequency is at the bottom, high frequency at the top, and then that's closer you are to the center, that's closer to 0 dB. I think it is something like that. And you can make it asymmetrical with the mirror set to off.
Right. Okay. That's probably somewhere right here.
Yep.
Yeah, that'll get real funky. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
I don't use that too often because I'm still not sure how to predict the result of it. But yeah, if you want like really fuzzy sort of Nine Inch Nails kind of guitars.
Yeah, sometimes it's just like completely destroying a sound. Like if I need to, I don't know, if I'm like turning styrofoam into something that feels like a glacier breaking, this kind of thing could be useful.
Yeah, I tend to go for more traditional distortion plugins, maybe that have wave shaping modes. They're just a different sort of interface for it.
Cool.
I don't know, like Saturn or
I got
Decapitator and things like that.
Yeah. I do like Decapitator a lot.
Your other question was LFOs? There isn't like a LFO plugin, nothing like LFO Tool or other ones that are built into FL Studio and things like that.
Yeah, there's like one in Ableton I use a lot, but
any plugin parameter can have an LFO applied to it. That's tempo synced or not. So
does that depend on? I mean, it doesn't matter if I have whatever LFO plugin, I can macro that to whatever parameter.
So it's called parameter modulation. So it has its own built-in LFO generator per parameter.
Oh, okay, cool.
It's a little tough to manage, especially if you got multiples. There's also, you could also just create an envelope for whatever parameter you want to modulate, and then insert an automation item, which has envelope generators, LFO generators.
Oh, that would accomplish what I need.
Yeah. I think things like Snap Heap with all the LFO functions, envelope following things, LFO tools in FabFilter Saturn, things like that.
Yeah.
Those are all still super useful even with these other options.
Okay, cool.
Effects can be on items or on the track. There's no LFO for item effects, pretty sure.
Okay, gotcha.
And there's no automation items. Track effects that'll work. That gives you the most options.
Cool. Is there just anything in terms of automation that I should be aware of that might be different from other DAWs, or is it going to be pretty seamless? I imagine
real-time automation or drawn automation.
I guess both, but I was mainly referring to drawn automation.
Okay, so I will show you how you can discover all the keyboard shortcuts really as mouse modifiers. So if you go to preferences, there's a mouse modifiers page, and then there's 3 pages of preferences just for that, for envelope editing. So under context at the top, where it currently says track, there's envelope point, envelope segment. There's also one above that for envelope lane, I think it is. Envelope control. Envelope. Yeah. So lane is anywhere that's not on the line of an automation envelope or on a point of an envelope automation point. Then there's one for point. So if you click on a point, if you alt click, if you shift click, if you control click, what do those things do? If you drag a point, holding any of those modifiers, what happens? An envelope segment is on the line, and usually more specifically within a time selection as well.
Okay. Any sort of default with all this stuff, or do I have to kind of begin to piece that together myself?
I would take a look in there and just like keep this open and just try things out. So there's left drag. There might also be another option if you click in there, double click. So what happens when you double click on a point?
Yeah. Okay.
Draw automation and try out these different things. And if it's something that like, oh, that doesn't make sense, just change it.
Okay, cool.
So if you want to change something, it's just double click on any of those things, like where it says move envelope point, double click. And then the default action is usually marked with that dot.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a little unclear sometimes. If you're in the move envelope point thing, some of those are actually toggles. So it's this plus this. It's not always.
Okay.
So there's just move. There's also ignoring snap. There's also just horizontally. And those sorts of things are sometimes additive and sometimes they override. They will a little bit of trial and error, but you should be able to do everything that you want to do with this.
Okay. Sick.
There's one thing that I would recommend looking at if you change your context to envelope segment.
Mm-hmm.
The one that I find the most helpful here is move envelope segment. So the shortcut is shift control.
Yeah.
So let's say you have a time selection around the filter envelope, filter frequency envelope. If you make a time selection and then shift control within that time selection on the line, you're dragging the line, it will automatically put in edge points and do just a trim of that section.
Oh, so it's just that wherever that is, it's just bringing it like as a bar.
Up and down. Exactly.
Ignoring everything else. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, so let's keep everything outside of time selection where it is, and it'll be a short transition point between those things.
Okay.
I do really like that.
Okay.
But I use it so much that I change my shift drag to that function. Move envelope segment.
Okay, so yeah, shift control is kind of a beefy command.
You will find which ones you like, which ones you don't like, and if anything doesn't make sense of what you're used to, you'll probably see those things in here or a way to change them. There's also certain things, especially if it's like a double click and things like that, sometimes you can actually run actions. So you can actually choose anything from the action list to run.
Oh, cool.
So sometimes that's really useful, not always. Yeah, and always just check here for like left drag. Sometimes there's a double click, sometimes there's a single click. Sometimes like for different contexts, like the arrange view, there's middle drag.
I imagine I can make like macros if I'm using similar sort of drawing shapes or formats a bunch. I can probably set something up to be like, I click this, I do this, and it just makes that shape.
Are you thinking like LFO shapes?
I guess so, yeah.
To make reusable envelope shapes, there is actually presets for automation items.
Cool, okay.
So there's like a little menu.
This will be the paid one-on-one we do.
Okay. Yeah.
I guess the last thing was just like sort of pitch control stuff. I think that's usually going to be within like a sample control kind of thing, but is there any other sort of pitch control stuff I should be aware of?
Yeah. So there's a coarse pitch adjustment here where you just type in the number you want and hit apply. Yeah. Shift enter in this window will keep this window open and apply the setting, and enter will close the window after you're making
so you
a
can
change.
audition it before you close the window.
Yeah. So the settings won't apply until you hit apply, but you can shift enter real quick and hear those changes. There's that. There's also the take envelope. So if you go to this option here, and then there is pitch in there.
Yep. Right here. Funk.
Yep. And that puts in a line, and you can go.
It's really heavy.
Yeah. So that's going to be that.
Oh, shift helps.
It's right here because it's set to fine as your default.
Ah, I see. I don't mind that. Fine's nice, and then I can just hold shift to go crazy.
Sure. Yep. The actual range of that envelope for pitch can be set in the preferences.
Look at that. I'm drawing, baby.
Nice. So I think I think it's it might be 6 dB to start with, plus or minus 6 dB. You can have it up to 30, I believe, 30 semitones.
Okay, sick.
You'll find that just by searching the preferences for pitch.
All right, nice. Dang, man. I guess my very last question, this is a little bit in the weeds. A lot of people have recommended in the game audio world a plugin, I forget who built it, but NVK workflow. So I can grab a bunch of items at once and sort of like drag everything within their own sort of group. Maybe that's the wrong terminology. Beyond, I'm happy to pay the price of entry for that, but beyond that, do you have anything that sort of operates similarly to that, where I can link a bunch of items together and have them be affected at the same time?
Yeah, NVK's scripts are very good. Who else has one?
Price.
I think so. NVK is Nick Von Cannell, who does sound design for Star Wars games, so he knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, I'd say.
LKC is the other creator that that does a lot of sort of game audio, advanced script stuff.
Okay.
That's worth checking out. There's also FX Permutator, which is worth a look.
Permutator.
That's made for game audio people, especially for experimental sound design. So you just give it a list of a bunch of effects to create a random chain from, random presets, random parameters. And it'll just spit out as many iterations as you want for a selected sound on separate tracks. Cool. And you can audition them and you just like keep what you like and discard what you don't.
Great.
So it's a sort of thing you can set up and just, if you don't know what to do with a sound, possibilities that you wouldn't linearly get to.
Yes, I love that kind of stuff. I'm all about that. Okay.
We did a quick demo of it last week on the stream, but I also have an interview with the creators from a year or two ago. That's another paid game audio specific script.
Sure.
Very cool stuff.
Happy to pay for the things that are going to really be useful tools and support these creators. But I'm just curious if there's like any built-in functionality that I should know about too that might help with.
So many, so many. There's so many things like databases in your Media Explorer to get all of your favorite sounds, to get sounds into different categories. If you just right-click there where your mouse was on the create database. Databases are faster to search because it gets all the metadata at once rather than having to read it from the hard drive each time you select the item.
Yeah.
Creating database can contain files from multiple folders in multiple drives and network drives and things like that without actually moving any of those things. And
so good.
Yeah. So I've got one for Foley and general sound effects and ambiances and specific projects that I'm working on where I've got a whole bunch of dialogue and other sound effects, and I just want to kind of keep everything together, whether they live in that project folder or not. I find databases, even just the benefit of being able to search them faster makes it worth it. Okay,
cool.
Yeah, automation items is something that you'll probably want to explore. We can do that another time because it's a bit deep. And then with effects, creating your old folders for effects, creating your categories, favorites lists, things like that is worth doing.
Take the time and just do all that. Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't know. Just like try to do a project and write down where you get stuck. And if something is repetitive or, if you don't find something or you're not sure what to do, often right click solves it. It's usually in the menu for that thing, which is pretty nice. And there's a lot of sort of hidden right click menus around Reaper. Right click everything. That's always a go-to of mine.
I'm going to get that tattooed on my body.
I don't know. I'm a bit running out of steam. I need to eat. I haven't eaten today.
No, dude.
And I got to pee real bad.
I got to pee too. You've spent so much time with me. I cannot thank you enough. Thank you. This has been like a masterclass that I did not anticipate I was getting. This is killer. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Well, I'm happy to help. And I do this sort of thing all the time, guys. So if you are interested in one of these one-on-one lessons, check out my website and I have a sign-up page and you can fill up my calendar with lots of events.
Do it.
Yeah. So I'll let you go if you want to go. and
All right,
we'll wind down the stream and yeah.
Thank you again for all your knowledge. Thank you to the chat for being patient with me. I'm sure there's been a lot of stuff y'all have been over 100 times, but I really appreciate you hanging with me. Yeah, as I was saying, thank you for your patience. I don't need to tell y'all how dope Mr. Blog is, but give him all the love you can. Subscribe if you haven't, you fool. Subscribe.
And anything you want to plug before you go?
I mean, honestly,
Do you want us to show up to your live stream tomorrow? We can.
you're welcome to. I don't know how fun it'll be for y'all, but if you want to see a bunch of people being silly and making some weird stuff, I'm on Twitch. I'm probably actually going to switch to YouTube here soon, but twitch.tv/Schmorgle. Hop in the Discord if you want to just get creative and weird. That's really my main plug. And if you happen to like my music, just look out for a new song that's coming out soon. I don't know when, but it's going to come out. And shout out to the Wholesome Squad. You know who you are if you happen to be watching or watch later. Wholesome Squad has been integral to my growth as a game audio person. So thank you to them. A lot of fans of you in there as well, Mr. Blog. And,
Awesome.
That's all I got. I'll let you go pee.
I'm going to end the call, but I'll talk to you another time.
You're
See
the
you
man.
later.
Talk to you soon.
Bye. And that's it. That was pretty fun, guys, right? Put the music back on. My ears are getting a bit sore here with these in-ears, but I figure it looks better on camera. Yeah, that was fun. I really enjoy talking to Alexander. Were the IEMs good for me? I don't like the AS12s as much. They stick out. They muffle my voice so much that it's hard to speak sometimes. I mean, it's a good thing, like you want IEMs to isolate, but it's a bit hard to hear yourself sometimes. That's pretty much the show for this week. I am so hungry and I got to pee so bad. My kidneys hurt. So thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you. And yeah, thanks for all the new subscribers and all the chats. You guys have been great today. So well behaved. And I will see you guys next week, same time. Bye, bye, bye.